Well, okay, maybe a ray of small hope coming out of the G20 meeting between Russia and the United States. There has been an agreement for a ceasefire in Syria. It applies to part of southwestern Syria and it begins Sunday. We don't, again, have many more details on this, but what we know is from anonymous officials, apparently we're gonna have an actual announcement in the next couple of days. I just found a couple of these pieces of quotes interesting from some Syrian analysts. Andrew Tabler of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy said, the question now is whether Russia will be able to enforce the agreement on its Syrian and Iranian allies. That's not certain. Again, remembering that Russia and the United States are not Syria and Iran and ISIS and rebel forces and all of the other forces that are playing out inside the country. Another analyst, a former special advisor in Syria under President Barack Obama, had this to say. I thought was interesting, saying we've seen this before, referring to the so-called cessation of hostilities negotiated between then Secretary of State John Kerry and Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in February 2016. Because remember, this is not the first time. Of course, we know Trump will try and say it is. That ceasefire held for a week to 10 days and fell apart completely. So yeah, so it is something potentially positive coming out of this newfound love between Putin and Trump, but the proof is actually on the ground in Syria, and there are way many more forces at stake here. And I don't know, what do y'all think?
So I have very mixed feelings about this because on the one hand, I'm annoyed by it because again, the media is missing the point here. So Trump and Putin have a meeting. Trump says, hey, you shouldn't have done the meddling. Then they say, okay, but we're done with it. There's gonna be no consequences to it at all, and we prefer not to investigate it. Wow, you were really tough on Putin. And then he turns around and says, now I'll give you exactly what you want. Your client state is winning right now. Bashar al-Assad's winning in Syria. We'll do a ceasefire that cements his lead. And by the way, the last time we did a ceasefire, Assad broke it the minute that he thought it was advantageous to him. And they had gotten 100 other opposition groups to actually live by the ceasefire, but Assad broke it when it was. So wait a minute, Putin got exactly what he wanted. So where's the part where they get punished? No. So far, Putin has gotten Trump to talk about how NATO is not that big a deal, and they're not doing enough, and it's outdated, etc. Has talked positively about Russia keeping the Ukraine. And now did this show thing where, oh, I am going to be tough on Putin and bomb Assad's because he did the chemical weapons attack. Then that bombing was proven to not bomb any of the new planes. They had left some old planes in a hangar somewhere. They bombed them. They didn't even bomb the runway. So the very next day, Assad and the Russians could use that same runway. Now they come and turn around and go, we promise we won't hit Assad anymore. So Putin got everything he wanted. And look, it's hard for me to contain myself and not call the mainstream press stupid when they are out there going to, oh, Trump was tough on Russia today. Well, then you don't understand anything. You don't understand the news at all. You should all immediately retire. But hold on, but the other part of it, the reason why I'm mixed on it is because it is good news that they did a ceasefire. Right. 4 million people have left Syria. They're internally, over 8 million are displaced. The war's a mess. And by the way, we should stop funding radical groups that are fighting Assad. Now, I'm no friend of Assad, and I've criticized him a billion times on the show, and I think he's done some terrible things, and I don't want Putin and Assad to gain an advantage. Having said all that, who are we giving weapons to? So Tulsi Gabbard makes a great point about this, and she's got a bill, by the way, a bipartisan bill, and Just Democrats are supporting it, justicedemocrats.com/SATA, Stop Arming Terrorists Act. Because you think when we give to those forces fighting Assad, that you're buying the myth that they're moderate radicals? Is that a thing? Like a moderate opposition to Assad? Maybe in the beginning, not maybe, definitely in the street protests, there were real moderates and real people who were secular. When the fighting began, there were some moderates left. Now, there are no moderates left. There's al-Nusra there that is connected to Al-Qaeda. We're arming Sunni radicals. We gotta stop arming those guys. So if that's what this deal led to, as much as I'm annoyed by the by the wrong coverage of it, and that Putin has, in essence, gotten what he wanted. I do agree that we should stop sending money and weapons to people who might very well use it against us later.
Well, I agree that the coverage is flawed in that way, but I also think that there's a lack of questioning some of the fundamentals here. That so theoretically we were able to get a ceasefire, which implies that there are dueling sides that need to come to some sort of agreement. And maybe you give a little bit, maybe I give a little bit. But I would question anyone watching this to explain what the strategic objective of Donald Trump in Syria is right now. I couldn't even necessarily explain what Obama's real objective was there. I mean, he would say that theoretically it'd be great if Assad was gone, but clearly he wasn't working towards that, sort of just rolling the dice on the rebel groups and thinking regardless of whether they end up being extremist or moderate, it's good to have them fighting him. But we never took a strong stance to actually get him out of power. Right. And then people, I think, just sort of assume as we transition over to it being the Donald Trump administration that, oh, I guess that theoretically he's against Assad too. But why are we assuming that at this point? I mean, clearly,
I don't think he is.
No,
clearly he'd like to kill ISIS, I guess. But why are we assuming that it's a complicated negotiation with Russia to get a ceasefire? He might well support that regime.
But I mean, there's no, a real ceasefire. I mean, it's so ridiculous to be negotiating on behalf of a bunch of, like in a proxy way, negotiating a ceasefire. What was the conversation with Assad before this? What's been the conversation with Iran? What's been the conversation with rebel forces on the ground? I think if the United States and Russia had gone to, out of those 2 hours and 15 minutes, been like, hey, I'm gonna stop selling weapons, you're gonna stop selling weapons, you're gonna stop selling planes, cool. Like, what? And guess what? We're gonna open, open our borders for a certain amount of refugees. Wow, wouldn't that have gone a long way for some kind of cessation of all this, of all the hostility? I mean, I think one potentially positive thing is if Russia can get Assad to stop the barrel bombing, right? The most egregious of all the, sort of all the fighting. From the analysis I've read, it's like, that'd be good, just for a bit.
Cool. So that would be good for the Syrians, that would be good for, I think, American interests, but I'm with John. I don't know what Trump got for Trump interests. Like for Trump, it's not clear. I mean, he might want Assad to win. For all we know, he does want Assad to win based on his statements.
What is his stance on other dictators around the globe? So is he generally against them?
No,
not in my experience.
But in this specific case, Trump is very close to Russia and has done pretty much everything they've asked on Ukraine, NATO, and now Syria. So why are we assuming that Trump got anything out of this deal? It seems like all he did was agree to everything Putin wanted. Help us build independent media. Become a member of the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.